Hey everybody, welcome to Go for Green Living. Today it's another one-pot meal. Today I packed me in a little chair. I'm sorry, it's a lightweight aluminum chair. It ought to be fun.
You know, using something, we talked about it on the way up, that anytime you're in an uncomfortable position, if it's rocky ground or anything like that, do what you can to make yourself comfortable. And the weight that he added to his pack with aluminum is really nothing. It's inconsequential. So it makes him a lot more comfortable and it makes us jealous.
I have some more. I was going to try it out first, see how bad it was carrying it through the woods.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
you know, something that I've been talking to Brad a lot about lately is time, and how time is actually a prepping item. And because I've really been thinking about this in depthly, because when I plan a project, you know, it's weeks in advance or a year in advance, you know, if it's a big project, you know. So I really think even planning is part of prepping. So I think time is, you know, using your time wisely, you know. So I was going to ask you what you thought about that, because I've just been so overwhelmed lately. I was like, it's my time. My main prepping item, time, I'm not using it right. So.
Yeah, time management.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think time management's huge as a preparedness item and as a mindset, because you're going to be able to get what you need to get done and be realistic with it.
Right.
So, you know, Daniel and I are shoring up an RV right now. We're got to work on the greenhouse, as you guys know. We have so many things, and if we don't, you can put out a fantasy time, and you can say, boy, well, let's get that done in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be realistic with it, or you're going to throw yourself completely off whack. So, Peggy, what are your thoughts on how many projects, you know, do you think you should undertake? Or if a disaster were to strike, how important is managing your time and maybe having like a dry erase board or something that everybody has their tasks on it?
Well, that's one thing we have at our house. We have to make sure that we have everything listed that we want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And if something pops up, I forgot to do so-and-so, you can put it in there on the board if you need to.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's extremely necessary to be really cautious of how much time you're putting into things.
Yeah.
And you have to be a good time manager and make sure that you're not wasting time doing something when you know you've got something more important that's really waiting on you to hurry up and get to.
So I guess not just time management, but prioritization too.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
This whole past week, the bees have been going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
This one hive has swarmed like 5 or 6 times, and every day I have to take hours out of the day. Yesterday I had to build a hive and build a super all at the same time, you know. So that was time I did not have. I had needed it in another area, but now I'm going to have to remanage my time to fit where I had to take the bee time back in there.
And I think that's part of that prioritization too, because that for Daniel to capture that extra hive, that could mean pounds and pounds of honey in the coming
yes.
years. So it would be silly not to reorganize your time
Right.
to make that chance worth it. You know?
And honey is necessary to have for food.
Right?
It's necessary to have also for the antibiotic properties.
That's right. You know, Peggy asked earlier, what should you put on ticks? After you get a bite, honey would be a great thing to put on.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it's got antifungal, antibacterial, and antibiotic properties.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have your own and you're doing your own raw. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah, I think that's good.
one thing we don't do. We don't get honey unless it is raw.
Yeah, right.
I make sure that we don't buy it commercially.
Mm-hmm.
We always get it from someone who gets it raw
Yeah.
and keeps it raw. Because we want the antibiotic,
Fungal and everything.
fungal
Yeah,
stuff on it.
right. Now, have either of you ever tried to make like mead, honey mead?
No.
No, that's something on the agenda for me.
Yeah, that's in our to be learned pile.
Mhm.
Yes, because we're actually growing hops. So
Yeah.
so
And you guys know us. I mean, I've had absolutely 0 drinks in the last year.
Me too.
But
You know.
if I was to make my own mead, I would try it.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's fine.
I
But-
do not keep alcoholic beverages in the house
Yeah,
for, well, let's call it religious reasons.
right.
But we keep them in the back of the cabinet for the properties they have
That's right. Yeah,
on wounds.
yeah,
Because you never know when you're going to have a medical emergency and need something like that.
that's right. And you're not making you're not going to be able to prepare your tinctures and everything without it.
If you don't have it, then you can't prepare the stuff you need for your family.
Right. Plus, not to mention a barter item.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it will be a barter item, and that's something else we're going to do is make grapes,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually we're growing grapes. We're going to be making wine,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a great barter item.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, time management, prioritization, and leaving room for hiccups, I guess.
Right.
Exactly. Bees.
Yep.
This is something that well, never mind. I just
Lost it?
lost it. Sorry. Sorry about the editing there.
No, that's
No,
okay.
this I got it.
Came back.
Yeah, this came back. This is important because getting together with other people, like-minded people,
Yeah.
and talking about things like this is just as important as prepping and time management because, I mean, just from Brad, I mean, I've learned so much from him that I wouldn't have thought as, you know, because he's more into survivalists and homesteading and
Right.
stuff like that. So
Right.
he's bringing in that whole new aspect into my life, and now we're going over, you know, bug out bags. We're going over 1-day bags, and
Yep.
Yeah.
it's important to get together with your like-minded people and talk about
Right.
things.
Right.
So that needs to be part of your time management, I think.
I agree. And, you know, you're going to have anyone who says they're a master at something is so full of themselves that it'll kill them. You are never a master at something. And there's always somebody else that does something a certain way that might be way better than yours.
Yeah.
And if you're not open to that, you know, like
You
Daniel,
can always learn something.
from an outside point of view, I would say Daniel is very in tune, astute, and controlled on the greenhouse. But he's still out there, and aquaponics. He's still out there all the time looking for new ways to do things.
Well, you got to be a student. I mean, that's a
Right.
if you become if you stop being a student, then you stop learning,
Right.
and that's I don't agree with that, and I'm always apt to learn something, you know.
Yeah. So, Peggy, what's on your long-term agenda for preparedness?
I guess making sure that when the stuff hits the fan,
Uh-huh.
that we can disappear into the earth and they won't be able to find us.
Okay. So, really being able to move and communicate still.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We will have to be able to communicate, and that is something I'm still working on a great deal.
What you got?
Moving, well, let's say I am approaching the 3/4 of a century mark,
Okay.
and I am not sure how much moving I am going to be doing, but there's still going to be a lot of people who are going to want to learn.
Yeah, right. And still need.
So I still want to be able to give the information or
Right.
till I get to that point where I can no longer do it.
And it's important to.
It's important to share.
That's right. And to not. Our culture. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the Old English term of retiring came about because they would take the old wagon tires that were good for nothing anymore.
Right.
And that was the act of retiring, was they would take off the old good for nothings
Right.
and put something new in.
Right.
So we live in a culture where you're discarded by society once you've reached a certain point of productivity.
Yeah.
And so people like my parents' age, they have to either work for the rest of their lives or find a way to bridge that gap. And I think the right thing to do is to move out of the world, out of the city, get with like-minded people, get with family and friends in a homestead environment. That's the kind of place you can spend the rest of your life.
That's exactly right. There's nothing in the Bible that says retire. We still have responsibilities until we pass on.
That's right.
The younger generation doesn't always want to acknowledge that they need our knowledge
Right.
and need our expertise. But you let them get in a situation where their survival is dependent upon somebody else's knowledge,
Yeah.
they will learn that
Well-
yes, they want us to come back and say, yeah, if you want to do it that way you can, but if you do it this way it's better.
Okay. Yep.
Cookies.
What?
He pulls out cookies. Cookies.
Kelly had made chocolate chip cookies,
Oh my.
and we're not. You'll want to dip it in your coffee because we don't eat a lot of sweets, and so time
Thank
got
you.
the better of them, and so they got a little harder than. I like soft cookies if I'm gonna eat a cookie, so it's definitely worth putting in your coffee. But yeah, Peggy, you're absolutely right. And no matter where you're at,
No.
find someone to talk to. You know?
I think those of us that are old and gray-headed are still valuable.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I agree with you.
You have grown gray hair faster than I have.
Well, it comes from wisdom.
There you are. Most of my friends are white-headed.
Oh yeah.
Well, you were just talking about the Bible. The Bible says gray hair comes from wisdom, so thank you.
I believe the Scots have it right.
How's that?
The elders of the clan are respected
That's right. Yep.
because they've lived long enough and grown enough gray hair.
Yep. If you get to that age, you've done something right. Now, my aunt, she was in her late 90s, just a few years ago, and still walking a mile a day. Still didn't want anyone cook. Still cooking for herself. Still doing everything, and that's what'll keep you going.
Until my father passed away a few years ago. He was still walking 2 or 3 miles a day.
Yep. You got to keep going.
Unfortunately, he was not being cautious about what he ate.
Okay.
So the cancer got hold of him.
Sure.
But it put him down in like 3 months.
Yeah.
So Easter morning, he got up, did his 3 miles. We went to church, and then I had to take him to the hospital.
And that was, yeah.
And they diagnosed him with cancer and said, he got a few months.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, he was dead.
Yep. How old?
84.
Okay. That's still pretty good. Yep.
Yep.
Still pretty good. But look at the technology now. And some of the bad that it is. And how they're working. Do you know what the telomeres are? Okay, so telomeres are basically parts of our genetic structure. And they're working to lengthen those because by lengthening them, they make humans live longer. And so it keeps aging at bay. But I don't think that's right. I don't think anything that mankind can do to change the genetic structure of humans is right.
I agree with you 100%.
Wrong one, Bill.
Don't let him have the food. He doesn't have sense enough not to try to eat your food.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on how?
He knows what no means.
Uh-huh. Come on, bud. You're all right. What are your thoughts on animals on the homestead or animals in preparedness?
I think they
Go
have.
on, go on. Go on. Go on. Go on.
Yeah, you might need to
They
move it.
have the. They have the hearing and nose that we don't have.
No,
Yeah.
And I think they're necessary.
go lay
Okay.
down.
What about if you had to pick one survival livestock, what would it be?
Chicken.
A chicken?
Horse.
Okay. How come a horse? For the beast
I
of
don't
burden?
eat meat.
Okay.
And I need somebody who's bigger than me who can haul more than I can.
Okay. So purely for their burden.
Bo, I'm gonna get a piece of firewood after you if you don't quit.
How about, so you said a chicken, Daniel. How come?
Well, okay, say something bad's happened, and you're in the middle of your woods somewhere.
Right?
But what if you had a dog that just barked at everything?
True.
You know, a couple hundred yards away, somebody's feeding a dog over there. Let's head that way.
Yep. Right.
So I think they might bring people to you as well as protect you.
That's a good consideration.
Well, it's just a thought I had. You know, the little chihuahuas we got.
Yeah, barking all the time.
Roar, 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 roar. The wind blows. Roar.
Yeah.
Yeah, people be
Yeah.
coming. Hey.
Um,
But the reason I say a chicken is because that chicken can give an egg a day.
yep.
You don't have to feed it. It can scratch for its food, and you can just ignore it all day long, and it'll do what it's going to do, and then
Yep.
get your one egg a day,
Right.
and then, you know, that's one meal a day for one
Okay.
person.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that that entails a lot more thought, but that's just
Well,
just off the top of my head.
and really the only thing you're missing, because if you think of like a goat, cow, lamb, anything like that, that's a lot of months in between your food.
Hmm.
Whereas a chicken is constantly providing you
Yeah.
food in the good months.
Yeah.
It slows down, of course, when it slows down, but they're going to eat literally everything. So you can dig up the ground and they're going to eat the worms. You can move their very small cage a little bit and they're going to scratch up the ground,
Yeah.
and they're still going to provide you with food. So I'd say you're on the right track there.
Well, it is. Well,
Yeah.
everybody says dogs, and stuff like that, and
A dog cannot provide eggs.
I know in the woods, if I'm running from somewhere, I'm probably not going to have a dog.
Sure.
Because you need to be quiet as possible. Invisible.
Yeah,
You know.
right.
Right.
From our discussions, I've been learning about being invisible and stuff. So, all right, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Our one pot meal. We're just going out visiting, talking about things. Discovering. Learning, becoming students, and we welcomed y'all along. So, I hope you appreciate it, and come join us next time on One Pot Meals. Ani Ove Ocha means I love you in Hebrew. Later, guys.
Cool.
Forgot to thank Peggy. But
Mm-hmm.